Welcome back to the Godzilla Movie Monster Marathon. Today we're covering King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original one from 1962, released on Toho's 30th anniversary, where the king of the monsters battles the 8th wonder of the world. It's the East versus the West, the battle of the decade. Ishiro Honda is the director, Tsuburaya is in charge of special effects, and the screenwriter is Shinichi Sekizawa. To top that off, it's the first time Godzilla is in color. So for this film, we're going to analyze the overall plot of the story, the design of the suits, the elements, themes, and tones, as well as covering the two different cuts of this film. Before we dwell on the plot of the film, let's cover the origin behind King Kong and Godzilla's first battle on the screen. In 1958, Willis O'Brien, the father of stop-motion animation and the man who brought King Kong to life on the screen, wrote a screenplay treatment titled King Kong vs. Frankenstein, where a new Kong was captured in Africa, taken to San Francisco by Dr. Frankenstein's grandson, and forced to fight a giant monster he created out of elephant and rhino body parts. Since RKO, the studio that produced King Kong, no longer existed, his former contacts introduced him to a producer named John Beck. However, stop motion was considered too expensive, and no American studio accepted to finance the project. So instead, he went to Toho. But instead of purchasing the story, Toho ended up purchasing King Kong and had him become Godzilla's opponent for the next film in honor of Toho's 30th anniversary. This deal was done behind Willis O'Brien's back, and it was never credited for the idea. O'Brien, alongside Marion C. Cooper, the director and creator of the original King Kong, unsuccessfully sued John Beck, as well as Toho and Universal Studios, the distributor and copyright holder of the US version. The lawsuit, with little financing, ended in a defeat, with O'Brien dying the same year the film came out. The legal battle behind Kong's owner wouldn't be brought up again until the 1970s. Now that backstory has been covered, let's dive into the plot. The story begins with a pharmaceutical company that discovers a rare form of berries that exist on Faroe Island, inhabited by a said monster deity. To boost its publicity and brand, the company's president sends two of his employees to find a monster and bring him back to Japan as a publicity stunt. Employees find the island, meet the natives, learn of Kong's existence, and witness the giant gorilla fight a giant octopus that attacks the village. This giant octopus, rumor has it, was said to be Eiji Tsuburaya's lunch. Yeah, they used a real-life octopus for this scene, and it ended up becoming his food. In order to fight Godzilla, Kong got jacked up from his original 15 meters to 45 meters tall. The first generation Godzilla is around 50 to 60 meters tall, so it made sense that they had to be bigger. Because RKO specifically instructed Toho to make their version of King Kong unique, monster builder Teishu Totsumitsu, the guy who designed the first Godzilla suit, based his appearance on a macaque instead of a gorilla. But as an audience, we can hardly tell the difference between them. Meanwhile, a UN submarine crashes in the very same iceberg that trapped Godzilla years ago, freeing him from slumber, and now set to destroy Japan once again. This being the first feature in color, Godzilla's look was modified, now having no ears, 3 digits instead of 4 on his feet, and now with his atomic breath being colored blue, and it will remain that way throughout the majority of the franchise. The first half of the film takes a lot of elements from the original King Kong. There's the mysterious island, a native village with a giant wall, Kong getting captured, him breaking loose. He rampages across a city, he kidnaps a woman and climbs a landmark, the Tokyo National Diet. The military, with the help of the protagonist, put Kong to sleep with a recording of the island chants, and then suddenly decide to prep him up to fight Godzilla. The later half of the film is the battle between Kong and Godzilla. They sent King Kong by hooking him up to air balloons like a cartoon character. As the brawl goes down, we as an audience recognize that Kong is the underdog in the situation. He's getting butt kicked by Godzilla heavily. The supersize wasn't enough to deal with his atomic breath, and just as Godzilla is about to go for the kill, a thunderstorm strikes Kong and revives him. Lightning was one of the weaknesses that Godzilla had in the original 1954 film. And now that King Kong is powered by lightning, he actually has a chance to defeat Godzilla. In terms of cinematography, there was a lot of improvement made to the battle scenes, especially with the little experimentation that they did there. There's a scene where Kong grabs a tree and shoves it straight down Godzilla's throat. In another scene, all of a sudden the monsters look exactly like hand puppets. There's one scene where they, instead of using suits, they use stop motion figures. while this film paints the whole brawl between Kong and Godzilla as the epic fight of the century, Ishiro Honda, the director, created this film with the purpose of directing it as a criticism against television culture in Japan, a parody on mass media. The pharmaceutical company wants Kong to boost its ratings on TV and even capitalizes on its brawl with Godzilla.
Oh, look at that.
You hear the characters debate on who will win, with most agreeing that Godzilla is stronger than Kong.
Oh, I bet Kong has no chance.
There's been a long-lasting rumor that there exist two separate endings to this film. After destroying a pagoda, the monsters fall into the ocean. In the US cut made by Universal, King Kong won the fight and rose from the ocean, while in the original Japanese one, Godzilla wins. This, of course, was nothing but a myth. Both cuts have the same ending. However, that isn't to say that the cuts are actually different. Universal re-edited the film for its American release, switching Akira Fukuda's score with that of their own films, the ones from The Golden Horde and The Creature from the Black Lagoon. On top of that, they changed the narrative and identity of the story. Gone are the commercials and the critique on television, and instead we have scenes from the UN reporters covering the plot and the giant monsters.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. He is sheer brute force. While Kong is a thinking animal. His brain is considerably larger.
The tone and setting of the film treats it more like an epic battle between two legends, and it has been promoted as such. It treats the battle between Kong and Godzilla on par with that of an epic tale.
Being instinctive rivals, there is no doubt that they will attempt to destroy one another.
Just like how Universal promoted Frankenstein meets the Wolfman as the epic monster mashup years ago, they portrayed this battle as the epic mashup of the century. Both cuts of the film are entertaining to watch. The Universal cut of the film was the first one I saw, and I found it more serious as a clash between monster legends. Meanwhile, the original cut demonstrates Honda's critique on the conflict and the human obsession with commercialization and popularity. Ishiro Honda wasn't just showcasing kaiju brawls and conflict, but also the deeper message behind it, the humans and how they interact with the existence of such creatures. Yet at the end of the day, both versions of the film are entertaining to watch, regardless of which one you go with. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next video as we head towards Godzilla's Golden Age.